Hey everyone, Paul here. We didn't get a real intro set up for tonight. We're busy doing everything we can to get the show on the road tonight. We've got a special guest, Mark Sharko Graham. So stick around. He'll be online in about 4 minutes.
Thunder on the turf, hear the crowd ignite. Perth Bears charging in red and black tonight. From the try line battles to the league-wide steps, we break it down, we bring it home. These are the Bear Facts. Perth pride, game on, let's attack. This is the Bear Facts. Oh, 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 oh. Hey, we are roaring with the Bears and a real story shaking up the air. Big hits, big hearts, never looking back. Turn it up, tune it in, get the Bear Facts. Perth pride, game on, let's attack. This is the Bear Facts.
Good evening, Grizzlies, and welcome back to the Bear Facts, the show that proves you don't need a full panel to cause chaos, just the right combination of personalities. Tonight we've got the trio of beautiful madness. Johnny, the man who claims he's calm and collected, but somehow starts an argument with himself before every episode. Todd, who insists he's the sensible one, despite being the only bloke who can derail a segment with a single eyebrow raise. And Rojni, the brains of the operation, the voice of reason, and the only one here who actually reads the run sheet. Strap in, folks. It's footy, it's fun, it's guaranteed to go off the rails in under 5 minutes. So let's get into it. Here's Rogie.
Thank you. Tonight, welcome back. I am gladly joined with my co-hosts Johnny and Todd, but tonight we also have NRL legend Mark Graham with us. He's a former Kiwi international and North Sydney Bears star. So let's get ready and dive into some sports chat. Welcome back, Johnny and Todd. How are you guys?
Yeah, good, thanks. Roshni, Todd, how you guys going?
Hey, good. How's things, all right?
I'm good. Busy day.
Yeah, good week.
Yeah, you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, a few rumours with the Bears over the last 2 days, so it's always good being in the news. Just hope they come to fruition and see what happens. Fingers crossed.
Exactly. So, as always, I do have a few questions to start off. So, Johnny, firstly, if you could kick out any team from the competition, who would it be and why?
Yeah, it's Manly. They offer nothing. They're in a black hole. And I'm not talking about Manly, the suburb. That's quite a beautiful area. I'm just talking about the stadium right in Brookvale. Should be redeveloped into affordable housing. And the club should pack its bags up and go all the way to Tasmania and be the Tasmanian Grasshoppers NRL team.
Damn. All right. Todd, if you could steal one player from the Bears and not Tino, who would it be?
For the Bears? Sorry, Rabbitohs. I'll take Payne Haas any day of the week. That's a great pickup for them. Sensational.
He hasn't even landed there.
Sorry?
He hasn't even landed there yet, and you're already stealing him.
What a great
Might as
pickup.
well. Great player.
And then everyone's like, I agree with everyone. If, people have been saying like they'll probably be our first team we play in 227 at Optus Stadium in Perth. And I think that would be fabulous. But my God, they got such a great lineup. It's just going to be a hard game for the Bears' first ever NRL game. If that's the game the NRL go with, wow, that's a hard game.
Yeah. Starting strong though, let's hope. Would one of you like to remind our viewers about the tipping competition we have going on?
Yeah, sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, get on to bearfacts.com.au. There's a tipping competition happening right there. Go to the webpage or through the social media links, and you will be going to the prompts for the tipping. Sign on, get on it. Looking forward to seeing everyone there. And yeah, like we said last week, doesn't matter how you tip, if it's animals versus animals or colours or just gut feel vibe or throwing a dart at a wall in the dark, I'm sure you'll beat me most weeks on the tips. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Perfect. Now I'd like to introduce Mark Graham to the screen. Hi, welcome.
Good day, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you for coming. I'll pass you on to Johnny and Todd to ask you some questions and get some insight from you.
Sure.
How are you, Mark?
Yeah, good, thanks, Johnny. Yourself?
Yeah, good, thank you. You want to go first, Johnny?
Sure, mate. We'll start off with the documentary, mate, because I watched it probably for the 17th time on the weekend, and it still gives me goosebumps, that documentary. First, kudos to your son. He has got the director's eye. Amazing skills. I don't think people realise how hard it is to shoot a feature like that. So what a wonderful concept as well. I know that if I did one on my dad. My dad would tell me 2 words. They start with G, the first word starts with G, and the second word starts with F.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
mate, how did that come about, and how was it doing that collaborative effort with your son?
Well, look, to tell you the truth, it was all Luke's doing. It was he's been to university to know how to do all this sort of stuff. He's done several feature films before this and documentaries, the whole shoot match, and he's very good at what he does, as you've said. And I had no partner whatsoever except afterwards when the movie came, when the doco came out, I went and helped promote it. But other than that. Because I'm telling you now, if I had anything to do with it, I wouldn't be getting knocked out all the time or dropping footballs.
That's awesome.
And Mark, the actor who played Mark Graham, did you have a pick in picking him, or did Luke just go and get him, or like what was the go there?
No input from me at all, I'm afraid. All Luke's doing, and he did a wonderful job, obviously.
So what did you think of that actor who played you? Did you think he was a good description, or?
Yeah, really. As I said, nothing was up to me. Luke did it all. He was the man behind it all. It was all his thoughts, all his input, and nothing from me whatsoever.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it was very well done.
Yeah,
Excellent.
he did a very good job.
Mark, New Zealand Rugby League Hall of Famer, New Zealand Sports Hall of Famer. I want to take you all the way back to the first time you've landed in Brisbane. I'm from Brisbane. And step through those North Devils gates. As a kid growing up playing football, we could never beat North Devils. And that was in the 90s. So how was it in the 80s, the 70s when you got here? And they're already a pretty formidable team from recollection. How was it coming first to Australia to play for them, and then just those couple of years in that champion team?
Look, I arrived in late '79. I wasn't allowed to train with the boys because I didn't have a clearance from New Zealand. I think I trained for 2 weeks prior to the season starting. I played one season at North Devils, and they came like 7th or 6th before I got there. We won it when I got there, and when I left, they didn't make the top 4 again. But they had a really good side. They had great halves, Joey Kilroy, great centres, a couple of really good wingers, and a superbly tough forward pack. And when I look back at different write-ups throughout the year, someone gave me a collection of all the games played throughout the year, and we made the semis. There was a top 4, and we came 4th in the semis, and we had a good side, obviously, and we won our way through to the grand final and won. And when you look at the side that we had, you're thinking, why wouldn't we have won? We had a really good side.
Yeah, I was looking at the lineups, like of the opposition teams you had to play in the lead up. Like you had a big young Mal Meninga with Souths Magpies, and you had Wally Lewis with Valleys, and they were both very close games you played in, like the final and the grand final. And can you run us through what happened with Wally?
I think we played. Valleys in the first game. What was the second? Anyway,
That's right.
we played Valleys and
South Magpies. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we played Wally. I think Wally and Valleys in the first semi-final, and they were a good side. They'd beaten us all year, as Souths had, who we played later in the grand final. And the well coached, very good side, previous winners of the comp, and we had our work cut out, obviously, and we had a bit of luck on the day. Things went our way as it needed to be, and poor old Wally had to go to hospital, and we ended up winning the game. So it was a pretty close match. So we had our fair share of luck.
There was a bit of a brawl in that grand final against Souths Magpies. Did you
Yeah,
try to
actually,
stick with Balmaninga?
I'd that was sort of my go coming from Otahu in South Auckland. But I was smart enough to know that it was a really hot day, and if I got involved in that, would have had no energy to carry on with the game. So I sort of tried to defuse it as much as I could, because that was very early on in the game, and it was a very hot day, and there was no point as far as I was concerned. And the best punch thrown, if anyone looks up on YouTube, the 1980 North versus South grand final, you'll see the best punch ever thrown was by Rossi Hendricks in a football fight, that is. And Rossi's rolled out of the blue and was on one knee, and he stood up, and a Valley's bloke rolled out of the South bloke rolled out of the blue and was on his knees, and Rossi hit him with a straight right and knocked him out cold. It was one of the,
Wow.
we all think we can fight a bit, but yeah, it was a good punch. So it's all there on YouTube if you want to watch it.
Mate, going back to the start, Auckland, how did a young Mark Graham get into rugby league and find his way into the Otahu junior team? How did all that come about?
That was I went to St Joseph's Convent School in Otahu, as they say, and the footy jerseys for the convent school I played for were given to us by the Otahu Rugby League. And when I left convent school and went to secondary school, I always was an Otahu boy, and all my mates played for Otahu. So when I finished at the secondary school, I went and played rugby league for Otahu again. So yeah, it was pretty simple, really.
Were you also a keen rugby player at the time, or was it just purely rugby league at that time?
I'd played rugby league pretty much all my life, as I said, but I played one season of rugby union, and it was the first and only rep side that I ever made was a rugby union rep side, and I managed to play for Auckland. We had two Auckland sides from the first 15 era, and I played for one of them. There was white or blue, and all the league boys ended up in the side, and all the rugby union boys ended up in the other. And we played them in the grand final of the tournament, and we lost in a day that was cold and wet and rainy and windy. So, rucking and mauling was the way to win the game of footy in those conditions, and we weren't very adept at that, so we lost. But I had the Sorensen boys playing for me, and they were two wonderful players from New Zealand Rugby League, and we had lots of league guys who didn't believe in rucking the ball. We would just pass the ball off the ground, because you can rugby union, and hitting holes and creating space was all about footy as we played it. And I think we were meant to be the lambs to the slaughter in our first game against Northland, I'm going to say, and all the officials were there, and we were the opening game, and we were meant to be the lamps to slaughters, and we beat them by 50, I reckon, or maybe more.
Oh, wow.
And what position in rugby union did you play, Mark?
I was a second row most of the time. They asked me to trial at Breakaway, but I wasn't really sure what the story was with Breakaway. I can remember when I first played rugby union, someone knocked someone down in front of me, and I wasn't sure whether I should go after the ball or just kick him while he was lying there. So I wasn't really sure about the rules.
Definitely.
Mate,
so when you
made your
started
way-
playing rugby league, sorry, Johnny.
No, it's all good, mate. You go on.
John. Okay.
I was going to
when you
say-
came across to play. Yeah. Yeah, when you first came across to rugby league, Mark, in Sydney, there's a lot of hard nuts in the competition back then. Mark Broadhurst, Steve Bowden, Bruce Clark, John Donnelly, Terry Randall, Les Boyd. How did you go mixing with those guys?
Yeah, I think Broady arrived a bit after me.
Right.
The other guys were always there, I think. Look, the older was there was lots of every club had their hard men, and we had a couple of real hard blokes, and maybe more than our fair share. And playing against those guys was never too much of a problem. John Donnelly's passed away, God bless his soul. Oops, sorry, I don't know what I've done there. Oh, there you go. But I can remember an incident where we played West at Lidcombe Oval, and Lidcombe Oval used to be an old bike track. They had a big, I don't know what they call it when it runs around the outside, where they used to be, they'd bike around the outside. It was quite steep banked, and you had to walk across that track. So when you played at Lidcombe Oval, you walked out amongst the crowd, but to save us from the crowd, they put a big like a wine eating race, I'm going to call it, out so that you could walk through this tunnel and the crowd couldn't get at you. So all the locals, being the locals, would be spitting on you and abusing you and stuff like that. And we'd run out into the park, and I saw John Donnelly. I was the captain of North Sydney Bears, and I saw John Donnelly at the let's put that down, at the end of the race, and we ran out, and I said, "G'day, mate, how you going?" And he spat on me, and I wasn't very happy with that, obviously. So we were on from the word go. So we were punching it out, and we hadn't even made the field as yet. So yeah. So yeah, and then obviously I think we might have won the kickoff, and I said we were going to kick off, and the kicker said to me, "Who do you want to kick to?" I said, "Kick that fat bastard down there," who was John Donnelly, and we kicked it to him, and he caught it, and he was charging for me, and I was charging at him, and I got him with a great elbow, knocked him down, broke his nose, but at the moment I hit him, a bloke by the name of George Morocco hit me, and I had a great picture of my nose about I don't know, 6 seconds into the game. My nose is sideways and collapsed, and the really rich red blood running out of my nose. So that was the very 6 seconds of the game, and we both played on, and we went and had a drink after.
Wow, that's so good.
Mate, 146 games for the Bears. How did you make your way down to North Sydney, and how was that time in your life playing for the mighty Bears?
Yeah, look, I was very fortunate. I had a good season up in Brisbane. I only played, as I said, I only played the one season, and then I was off captaining the Kiwis in 1980 tour, of which I was lucky enough to do two, England and France. I was the captain of 80 and 85, and I arrived at North Sydney as the captain of the Kiwis, current captain of the Kiwis, and pre-season was like a week after I got there, and I'd been playing a week before in the freezing snow, and all of a sudden I was training down in Sydney in like 35 degrees and 80% humidity, so it was a little bit different, obviously. And the boys were really good. I enjoyed their company, and we had the Bears, and I'm going to say this: the Bears always had good players, but what we really lacked was good administrators, and hopefully this time around in Perth they'll do it right. And I've met a few of the administrators in the meantime from Perth, and they're the people that I've met have been what do you say, like politicians and people that know about diplomacy and how to get things done. So I'd say we're on a pretty good level at this stage.
Yeah, good. And how about coaching, Mark? You went into coaching 2 years at the Warriors there. How did you find that?
Yeah, well, I was actually in New Zealand last on the weekend, and we were doing a fundraiser for my old Oahu club, and someone asked me the same question, and I said, well, I'd done 7 years of assistant coaching prior to that. I'd done a couple of the Bears, I'd done a couple of Manly, and I'd done 3 up at the Cowboys before I got the Warriors job. So I'd done 7 years as an assistant coach. I was a pretty good player myself. I knew the game, and I went to the Warriors, and I was pretty confident. I knew what I was doing, obviously. And I made the statement because of the lineup that the Warriors had at that stage, and they had like 12 Kiwis that I could turn them around. I could make them a half decent side. And I said, if we don't make the semis after 2 years, I'll resign. And I didn't. I couldn't get them to the semis, so I resigned. But the fact of the matter is that when I looked at their lineup before I signed, and they had all these Kiwis, like they could play. There's no risk. They were good players, and they weren't having a very good run. under the coaching that they had previously. But the coach that they had previously was also the Kiwi coach and was also the manager of most of the good players. And when he got the arse, he told all his good players that they were going too. So the side I thought I was going to get wasn't the side I got. So I did say what I said, and I stuck by it at the end of the day. But there was a lot of a lot of stuff that. Well, so okay. I had 2 years at the Warriors, and in those 2 years, I brought on a year. 2 years after I left, I think a year, maybe the second year after I left, they went to the grand final, and 6 of those players in the Warriors side that made the grand final were unknown before I got there because all these good players had left. So I had to go out and find players that could play. So I did, I had all the stuff that I'd been coaching with. Like I coached under Graham Lowe, under Bob Fulton, under Timmy Sheens, under Peter Louis, and they were all very, very good coaches. So I had more than some idea about what I was doing and what I was looking for, and I was picking athletes and knowing that their athleticism would get them or would get us home at some stage. So all those guys, six of them that I brought through. They all ended up in the grand final 2 years later. So I would say that, and they were the lifeblood of the joint for ages. So I would say that although I wasn't able to get them into semis in my time, I certainly had a lot to do with them getting to the to where they got to in a couple of years later.
What amazing information. We just had a quick message from our Facebook Live from Michael Geldart. He just wanted to say his son and him were both in. And it's an absolute honor to watch you here on our podcast. I want to also just move on a little bit to a little social media event we had on where you could give in photos of you in red and black outfits. We've got a few of our fans in there. Here's Tim in his best colors. And then we have lots of other people that gave in their photos with a little caption. Here, Nikki. And I think this is such a good way to bring in the community and see everyone as fans.
Yeah.
And then if you want to be in our next podcast, just send in your photos via our Instagram or Facebook with a little caption, and you'll be featured on next week's podcast. And I will hand it back to you boys to keep the sports talk going, and then we can move on after a little bit.
Thank you, Roshni. I got a question. You played with the Sorensen brothers. It's kind of relevant to what's happening at the moment. So Perth Bears are potentially going to sign Scott Sorensen, the nephew.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. That's good.
Yeah. So apparently they've been talking to him. Is maybe going to sign this week. Toddy and I, we're crossing our fingers and toes and everything because he's a really good player. Obviously, taking after his uncles. Speaking of his uncles, and then going back to your Test career, that era was hard-nosed. You guys were so unlucky on so many occasions. Like, we're proud Aussies and we like to win, but the efforts you guys put up, gallant. And how was that era of Test footy? Because the footy now doesn't compare to that as far as physicality. So going back to that time, putting on that black jersey. What a team, mate. What a team. How was that, Sharko?
Yeah. Well, we were playing representative football when I was going to say 1920. No, 19. I didn't make a representative side as a junior, but when I went to senior football when I was 19, it's 1975. I was playing against the Sorensens. They played for Mount Wellington, and I played for Otahu, and we made representative sides like Auckland together. And in that Auckland era, I played for Auckland from 75 to 79, and because I left after 79. And in 1977, we beat Australia, Great Britain, I think, France in 3 consecutive Wednesday nights. And in that era, we all worked, and I was a jibboard stopper or a bricklayer, depending on what year it was. And, we'd work all day, and then I'd go home and have a quick feed and jump in the car and go to Carlaw Park, and we'd play. We'd get on the drink after, and we'd win, and then I'd get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to work again. And that was just part and parcel of it all. And I was at a turnout on Saturday night last, and I was amongst a lot of Kiwis, so Ruben Wiki, Huey McGowan, Richie Barnett, Graham Lowe, the great coach, and Tiara Nikau, and we were talking about this on stage. We were answering questions, and I was saying to the boys, "Yeah, well, we worked during the day," and they were going, "Oh no, we didn't." And Huey McGowan said, "Oh, well, he did," and I said, "Yeah, well, I did too." And everyone else, that was their full-time job. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise that we had something else to worry about. But I'm not sure how it would have been had I not had to work during the day. So yeah.
Yeah, I used to look at that Kiwi lineup, and whenever Australia was ready to take the field against them, I'd look at them, and you'd have like yourself and Olsen Philippana and Fred Coy and James Lulalai, Curtin Dane Sorensen. It was just such a formidable side, and every time you just didn't know which way it was going to go. It was such a hard test match, and they had the unknown quality about them as well, because you also had a few Kiwis come across from England to partake in the tests as well, and that just sort of, back then we didn't have social media or the TV we have now, where you can access like the Super League and that. So the players that came across from England the players that came across from England were just unknowns virtually. So you had just such a formidable side, and it was always nail biting to watch you guys play. Like, it was full on.
Yeah, well, we had some very good players, and we went close a number of times. Australia was obviously the number one side, and they had full of great players. But I think I was always demanding that we have a neutral referee, and even though sometimes we did get a neutral referee, they were that sort of pleased to be in Australia or New Zealand refereeing that test match, that they made sure that they were going to get invited back. And I don't think we ever won a penalty count. We didn't win too much under the refereeing that we had. So, and people can say, "Oh, that's sour grapes." Yeah, it is sour grapes, because that's bloody true.
Yeah. Did you ever have that French referee, Julian Rascagniers, referee you?
Yes, I had. Yeah, I think he was. I think in the second test in '85, when we lost to Australia in the last minute, I think they beat us by 1 or 2 points. He disallowed 4 of our tries. So I've had him, and I was very upset with him, and I hope he's well, and I hope he's okay. But he's unforgiven from me. Yeah.
Mate, in your playing days, it could be tests for the Bears, for the Devils. Who did you find your toughest opponent?
Oh, they're all tough. I think the ones, say a really good player pulled out before we played them. The guy that replaced him from the reserve grade, he was as good as as the bloke that we're about to play, because he was going to get his one opportunity. He was not going to muck it up. He was going to do the absolute best he could. So for 80 minutes, he gave all he got, all he had, and he may not have had the absolute skill or whatever the other player that he was replacing had, but he wasn't going to let anyone down. So, I don't know about that. They're all tough, and as soon as you underestimated someone, you got set on your ass. That was football in those days.
I was watching when I watched Sharko the other week. It brought back memories. I used to try and follow you guys when you toured Great Britain, had games over there. And I never knew that story of you getting concussed and then hurting your ankle and then having to go out on the field. And can you run us through that?
Okay. So the first test we played at Headingley, and we were going pretty good. So we had them at half time, and just prior to half time, I'd got my cheekbone broken, and then about a couple of minutes after that, I heard something snap on my ankle as I was carrying the ball forward. So half time was soon after that, so I limped off, went to the dressing room, and we didn't have a doctor in the shed at that stage, so I said to Lowy, mate, my ankle's gone, I can't go. And he thought it was my face. He goes, oh, you'll be right, I'm going, no, it's not your face, I don't care about that. As you can see, I don't care about your face, but so he said, mate, you got to go back out for the second half. So I did, but I was, I could hardly move. And in those days, believe it or not, as strange as it sounds, we used to have to push in the scrums. I know it sounds like I'm telling lies because nowadays if you're a middle forward, you get 20 minutes on, you have 20 minutes off, then you have half time off, then you have the next 20 minutes off, and then you play the last 20 minutes. I've got to say, I don't know whether I'd bother going to training if that was the case. That was me. But anyway, I'm not saying this soft or anything, but you are. So I didn't last the game. I had to come off, had to go to hospital, had to get all fixed up and shit. So I couldn't play the second test, and we lost badly in the second test. We won that first test.
Yeah.
So Graham came to me and said, mate, you got to play on the second test. I said, shit, I can't put my foot on the ground. He said, you're going to have to, toughen up and get into it. So we had a good side, but we hadn't we lost the first two tests against Australia, only by very small margins, but we won the third test 18-0, which is quite remarkable considering that we had about 6 or 7 blokes that played within the domestic competition in New Zealand, and everyone else played overseas. But that's a big step for guys to step up, and they were good footy players. There's no risk about that, but it's a big ask. So we get off to England, and we're full of ourselves, and we're going all right. We win the first test. I get busted. We go out in the second test and get beat pretty good. So Lowy says I got to play in the third test, which I was keen to, but my ankle wasn't responding. But anyway, so I do what I can. I strap up. I train all the time. I ice it all the time, and I'm terrified that I'm going to do the haka because you only haka in my era when you're away. Not you just don't haka for the sake of it. And so I'm terrified. We're going to do the haka. I'm going to fall over, and that's going to be the end of me. But they fly a doctor in from New Zealand. He gives me a couple of jabs. I'm good to go. I go out, and just before I leave the dressing sheds, before to go out and play the third and deciding test, he tells me that not to worry because there's an ambulance waiting in the car park. As soon as we're finished, I'm off to hospital. I thought, well, mate, that may have reassured some people, but it didn't do much for me. But anyway, so off we go. We play, and I score the only try of the test match. We drew 6-all, and I go to hospital and don't play again on the tour. I go home about a week later, so I don't go to France. It was very disappointing in the fact. I mean, it was pretty good that we drew the Test series, but in 1980 we drew the Test series too. So it was no luck as far as I was concerned, and we were a good side and we deserved better than that. But maybe we weren't as good as what we thought we were.
And you spent a bit of time in the English competition with Wakefield Trinity. How was that? Was there any other players in the NRL?
I'd finished with my time at North, and I went off to Wakefield Trinity, and played I think 14 games for them. I enjoyed it. They were good lads, but we fell out over. Brent Todd came over to play for us, and he hurt his knee, and the club said that they were just going to move him on. And they weren't going to help with his rehabilitation or his doctor's bills and that. So me being me, I just not copping that. So I went and saw the people that counted, and they said, "Well, that's how it is." I said, "Well, right, well, I'll see you all later because I'm going to retire." And they said, "You wouldn't retire because." A couple of reasons, because I just bought a place in England, I just bought a place in Wakefield, and that they were paying me too much money to retire. And I said, you obviously don't know me. Money means nothing to me. It's more important that I like the bloke looking back in the mirror, and I'll see you all later. And that was it. I retired on the spot.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah.
Not incredible. It's just that's how your word is your word, and that's the end of
not
it as far as I'm
incredible. I
concerned.
think credible. Yeah, just credible as a character.
Oh, okay, yeah, right, yeah. And I have no regrets about that. I was 33. I think I had pleurisy or whatever that stage. I was coughing all the time. I was struggling. I'd flu really bad or whatever. I don't know what I had, but it was no big deal. I'd played a lot of hard footy. I'd taken my fair share of injuries. I was okay with it too.
Yeah, no, that is such an amazing story that everything you went through. Very, very interesting. We have a little section of our podcast where we do quiz questions and answers between Johnny and Todd, where the guest will, tell them if they've got it right or give them the right answer if they get it wrong. Johnny and Todd, you have to call out your name before you answer, just so there's no overlap. All right, first question is, what country is Mark originally from?
Todd.
Johnny.
That was definitely Todd.
New Zealand?
Yeah. And then, which rugby league club did Mark captain in the 1980s?
Johnny.
Todd.
That was Johnny.
North Sydney.
North Sydney. How many tests did Mark play for New Zealand?
Todd.
Johnny. Yep. That was Todd.
Was that me?
Yes.
28.
Mark, do you want to correct?
I think it was 29.
Ooh.
29 counting. I had a look at this. It was 28 with New Zealand, and there was one game for the a world side. You played in a world side.
No, it was pretty sure it was 29 and 2 captains for the world side. So I captained 1988 when I retired. I captained the rest of the world versus Australia and the rest of the world versus England. So I don't think they don't class them as test matches. But the previous question prior to that was did I captain in 1980? I didn't captain the North Brisbane Devils in 1980. I didn't. So that was Mark Murray.
Mark Murray.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Next question. What position did Mark primarily play?
Todd.
Yep, Todd.
Second row.
Second row, is that correct?
Yeah, I think most of the time I played a bit of prop towards the end of my career, and I played a bit of lock before that. So yeah, but I think most of the games would be second row. Yeah.
Second row. Okay, next question. Which legendary rugby league player did Mark famously clash with, putting him in hospital twice?
Todd.
Yep.
Twice. Okay. Wally Lewis.
Yep.
Right. Johnny, you've got to get your name going out here.
There's a lag. There's a lag because I've said my name. I said my name like 3 or 4 times, and every time you go, Todd said it first.
Okay, I'll give this one to you.
Yeah, I know Queenslanders. I know we have the internet. It's still 56K modem up here, but come on.
Okay, this one's just for you then, Johnny, so you can answer a few. What was the name of the club Mark played for in Brisbane before joining North Sydney Bears?
It was the Devils.
The Devils?
The mighty Blue Devils playing out at Nunda.
Is that where Billy Slater and Cameron Smith and?
No, they're not from there. They were there because they're in the Storm development system.
Right.
Billy Slater's from up north, and Cooper Cronk's actually from South Acacia Ridge, and Cam Smith from Logan Brothers.
Okay. And last question. What is the title of Mark's autobiography published in 1989?
That is a good question.
Don't you Google?
I'm not Googling. No. The clicking in the background, that's something else. Yeah, just cutting my fingernails.
Wow.
That is a good question. Yeah.
That is
If you guys don't have
Mark
an
my
answer,
words. Mark my words. Pat,
Yeah, Mark, do you want to tell us?
Yep.
Very nice.
Yep.
Well, I'll hand it to Johnny because we got some statistics from the over and unders.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to tell us more about those games that just happened?
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the junior games over the weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty much the boys, the North Sydney boys, went down. SG Ball and Harold Matts against Manly. Close games, but they just couldn't get done in the second half. The girls ran riot in both their games. Fantastic. And then Easts, I think they only got one game out. It was a whitewash over in on the weekend here up on the Gold Coast. It was raining pretty heavily. I think the girls went down, so a few games have been postponed. This week, we're all over the shop. Norths play the Sharks, I think, and the Tigers play both the Wide Bay Bulls and the Dolphins, I think. Yeah, so they're a bit all over the shop this week. Hopefully we get wins.
Yeah, I saw it in a trial match against East Tigers had a trial match against Burleigh Bears, and they got pretty much towelled up 32-4 up in Brizzy. So,
the boys they'll get there. It's a hard year this year. We were speaking Sharko last week. This year, obviously, both North Sydney and the Brisbane Tigers, they've got no NRL direct team because they're part of the Perth Bears team. But because Perth Bears don't come till next year, the lads sort of are playing this 1 year that even if they play their best and they're raring to go, most NRL teams' top 30 is already filled. So they're pretty much state players for this year, and that's it. But next year is when it gets really hot in the kitchen, and everyone will be trying to get into that top 30 squad. So, beautiful stuff. Mark, I've got a question for you.
The good thing I noticed about the pathways on the weekend, I just want to mention, is there was a few WA kids they played. There was there was a young girl, what's her name, Palace Koya in the Lisa Fiola, and there was 3 girls in the Tasha Gales under 19s. And there was also a young lad in the SG Ball for North Sydney. His name was Jarkayas Mabbott, and he's a hooker. So the pathways look like they're starting to slowly take shape, like with the 4 girls and the young fella playing for the Bears, and that can only get better. Like, this is only early days yet, so so good thing, good for WA.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And speaking on WA, Sharko, what did you think when the Bears were announced coming out of hibernation after 20 odd years in WA? Did you see that ever coming?
No, I didn't. I got to say. No, sorry about that. Having said that, I wasn't, wasn't aware of it. I think now that it's happened, it's been announced, and I'm very pleased. Obviously, I'm very pleased that Big Mel's got the opportunity to be the inaugural head coach, and having met a few of the directors at different functions, I feel confident that we are being professionally. We've got a great administration anyway, and I think over time we'll hopefully prove to be a force in the NRL competition.
I think so. I think so. Did you ever get over
I
to WA as a coach? Were you ever coaching in that Super League era?
Yeah, I went over there as an assistant coach with the Cowboys. We played, I think it was the Reds, was it? We went to Adelaide and we played down there. There was, it was tried, but didn't turn out to be that good. But I think now, it's. There's a lot of people in Western Australia, especially Perth, that like both codes of the rugby. So I think it's much for an opportunity, and very pleased that Big Mel's the man that put his hand up, and that whoever picked him because we needed someone of a mortal status to register with the AFL crowds, I suppose, and someone that's to be recognised and not only has the ability, but a bit of I don't know what you'd call it here, but at home in New Zealand we call it mana, and a bit of spiritual greatness about them, and he's certainly got that.
Yeah, earlier in the week, Mark, Johnny and myself were having a little talk about you and your career and everything. Johnny sort of said to me, who would you compare Mark Graham with the current players like in the NRL at the moment? And I was a bit taken on the spot. I had to think about it at the time. And Johnny, you want to go ahead with who you said, and then I'll come forward with my...
Yeah. So if there's one player that reminds me a little bit of you, Sharko, from today's era, it's probably Liam Martin from the Panthers. He's not as big in stature as what you are, but man, he is a tough nut. He's a goer. Yeah. He just doesn't give up. He's got a motor. Yeah, he's got that 80-minute motor. He's got that mongrel that you kind of need in the forward pack. The game's so different now to what it was back then, especially the physicality. And it's so much more almost choreographed with the way the coaching is and stuff. It's not as freelance. So. Yeah, but that's who I came up with in today's game.
I'm going to take that as a wrap. That's a good result, I reckon, for me.
I hope you like mine. You got to dye your hair a bit yellow, I think, but I came up with Viliama Kickout. I did just because of the physical. Yeah, the physical stature of him. Like he's imposing. He's 6'5", and just how he just breaks defensive lines, and when he hits you, like you stay hit and. In all honesty, when Johnny sort of mentioned Liam Martin, I think you're probably a bit of a mix between both of them. So,
well, I'm going to take that as a great compliment from both of you gents. Thanks for that. I like both those players, but again, the game is so different now as compared. Like nowadays, you get the ball from your half that you're playing outside of. And if you don't get it, he decides to throw it to somebody else. I don't know what the carries are per outside, or what do you call them? Edge second rowers or whatever. But they might get the ball 8-10 times in the game. I'd handle the ball. I'd handle the ball that many times in the first 20 minutes. It's so different now, and you worry about your side of the park. Well, I'd be worried about both sides of the park. I'd be running blokes down on the other side of the park too. It's just completely different now, and it's almost I spend an hour a week on the phone to a great friend of mine who's a wonderful coach and a really good human being, Alan Bell, and I've got him in my phone as the footy professor, and he helped set up Newcastle and Newcastle Rugby League, and he's I say, what do you think of the weekend, Alan? And we'll talk at length about the footy as it is today. And I think, I know him and I both agree that they've dumbed it down, so they've taken the skill out of everybody's game except for the 9, 7, 1, and 6. And everyone else just gets to run into people, and it's a way to make less mistakes because no one gets to play footy except those 4 people, and if you decide to pass the ball at some stage and it doesn't come off, well, you're dropped next week, because the stats man says that if you get all the ball, at least 60% of the ball, and the field position, and win the penalty count, you must win the game of footy. So, moving the ball, having a skill doesn't count at all. And I was talking to Alan today, and I was saying that I like to watch footy and say, "Wow, that was outstanding! Gee, that was so skillful." And you know how many times I've said that in the last 3 years? None, never. And I just look at it and go, wow, why was that bloke supporting that guy? They have plays now where no one supports the ball carrier. So the defence just... Sorry. Oh, hang on. Upside down. There we go. Can we get it back? There we are. Sorry about that, gents. My apologies. So we have plays now where no one supports the ball carrier. And in my era, if I was standing in a tackle looking for someone to pass the ball to, and no one was supporting me, the halftime break would have been the only thing, and that would be the only thing the coach would have said. He would have yelled and screamed at the blokes that have been to support the ball player. So the game is lost its a lot of places have lost its skill. The halves are, they're good players, obviously, and the nines are good players, and the ones are great players, but everyone else just runs into people. And I find it very difficult to watch on a lot of occasions.
Yeah. Who was it? I think it was Gary McDonald, who was a former Raiders player I worked with. He was a former Raiders player, and he said the game today has much better athletes but less footballers, as in there's a lot of really good top shelf athletes that can do that single job that it's structured to, but the overall footy player from 1 to 17 is not there. Like you said, Sharko, probably 4 or 5 guys are actually proper footy players that with the ball in their hand can still play like they were playing 100 years ago to today, and nothing's changed, but the rest is just line running, systems, and you know what I mean, and shape, and it's vastly different. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, if I see another block shape to block shape, I think I'm just going to get up to push the off button, because there's no, unless you have a renowned edge player that comes flying in off their position. That should be so easily defended. It's not funny, because they have people doing the same thing at them at training, and if you muck that up, you're an idiot. You can't play. But week in and week out, we see the same people in the same positions doing the same thing, and you're going, shit. If I was playing, I'd just be going, we're going down that edge of the paddock, because he's an idiot. I'm just going to wave the ball over there. He's going to come flying in, and I'll just slip the ball into the space that he left, and there'll be a try. And I'm so, so me and Alan Bell are talking today, here we go, and everyone goes, defence wins games of footy. And I go, okay, so you've got 2 really good defensive sides playing. What's the score? Well, let's say they're both excellent defensive side. The score's 0-0. So the referee most probably makes the decision on who wins the game, be a penalty or whatever. So I said, well, okay, well my definition of a really good football team is who can score the most points, because in a game of footy, whoever scores the most points wins the game. It doesn't matter if it's 61 to 62. It doesn't matter. It's whoever wins the most points, whoever scores the most points. And I don't see any. So you lose your half that, with an injury, or as the Warriors did last year with that Luke Metcalf. They were riding high when he was playing. Mind you, he was the only attacking weapon they had, pretty much. So he gets injured. They make the semi still because they had not good enough lead, and they play very, let's say, I don't know, boring footy, whatever you want to call it. But they graft away and they believe in their systems, and and it's really hard to watch. I struggle to watch the game as it is. And I was talking to Al today, Alan Bell, and he was saying what they should do is drop their lock, make it 12. So with one at the back, 2 markers. That means that on one side of the park, there's going to be an odd number. So you must get an overlap if you're the attacking side. That would make it hard. That would also bring back they would take the wrestling out of the game. That would make every player a footy player, because you'd have to know where the space is all the time. So it would change the colour. It would actually change coaches too, because the coaches now that are very comfortable with go forward, block play. If you get the opportunity, kick it in the corner, and let's hope that we don't make mistakes. It's the game. With the refereeing as it is with 6 again. For whatever reason, I don't know. I just decided 6 again. You can't talk to me about it. We're just giving 6 again. And I'm sitting there going, what was that for? And the old commentators can't tell you, because so we don't know, and so the referee can change the decision, so it'll change the outcome of the match. So rugby league was invented. It was an offshoot of rugby union, because rugby union, you can have the ball all day. You can lose a yard, but have enough people in the ruck to win their ball back. And if you have all the ball all the time, it can be pretty hard to beat. And the rugby league's figured out that if you win the possession rate, so you get, all you do is hit it off the ruck, and you get 6 again, 6 again, 6 again, 6 again. At some stage, you will score, because the opposition cannot physically stand up to the pressure that you put them under. And it's hard to watch. In the old days when I played, you made a mistake, you went to the scrum. And if you had a good forward pack, you could influence the scrums. You could do all sorts of there. And then when you played the ball, you could strike for the ball. So it was all about So nowadays it's not. No one strikes for the ball. No one pushes in the scrum. And people say now that they're great athletes. Oh, yeah, shit. Well, yeah, they're good athletes. But what do we have to? What do they play for 20 minutes? Have 20 minutes off. Have half time off. Have the next 20 minutes off, and then come on for the last 20 minutes. That's ridiculous. If they're such good athletes, why aren't they dominating when they come back? Because they're not. Because we've changed the rules that many times, and we've done so again this year. I'm pretty sure that the players don't. I watch the players who don't know the rules doing stupid things all the time and going, and you're a professional footballer. What the f is going on? And that's my witch for the night, boys. I'm sorry about that, but anyway.
That's good.
I totally agree.
A lot of fans, I think, feel the same way, mate.
Yeah. Well, I'm a fan of rugby league.
Walker Brothers.
Absolutely. In fact, I used to play footy with their old man Gary Walker, who was a great footy player, and we played in the grand final together at the Devils. And he was a very good footy player. His kids are great footy players, and I'm sort of hoping that they go pretty good with their. I think they're coaching the Clydesdales. Yeah. And I really like. In fact. I tried to get them the Warriors job a couple of years ago. So, Anyway, I hope they go on with it. They're nice young people. The old man's a legend. Mum's a champion, Trish, and they're good people and rugby league people too.
They've just got a different philosophy as well, so that's good.
Yeah.
I'd just like to pop in. We just had a question come in for you, Mark. Who was your favourite player to coach while you were at the Warriors?
Oh, gee. I keep in touch with the boys keep in touch with me because when I resigned from the Warriors, I went to Auckland Rugby Union. I coached rugby union for quite a bit, and I went overseas and coached in Japan. I went to Italy and did some coaching up there, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great, and I did some work with the New Zealand Rugby Union too. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. But at the Warriors, there were several really, really good players, and I wish I'd had that question so I could think about it for a bit longer, because you hate to nominate someone and then think later, oh, gee, bugger, I should have said so-and-so. Yeah. But there were several very good players whom I really liked and enjoyed their company. Joey Wagner was one. I was in New Zealand last weekend, and I had a cup of coffee with Joe, and he's a champion bloke, big, strong. Big Joe used to play in the centres when he was a young fella, and he was a prop when I used to coach him. Joe was never scared. He was about 120 kilos, could run like the wind, great skills. And when I resigned from the Warriors, he left and went to Bradford, I think, up in Bradford Northern, the Bulls up in, and they won the comp on a number of occasions up there. Most pleased about some of the young guys I brought on, like Shantae Harpy, who left when I left, and he went up and played rugby union, and he played for England in rugby union. Paul Fatawera, who left also when I left, and he went to Balmain and then Penrith and won 2 premierships with both of them. Clinton Torpy, a mate of mine, he turned up at my office. A mate of mine had written a letter, said he'd coached him and to give him a trial, and I did, and we did, and he trained the house down, and played for the Kiwis on numerous occasions. At one stage he was the best centre in the rugby league world, and in fact they used to stop him from going to the gym because he was getting too big. There was a number of people, but I think the best. Most probably the best athlete I ever got to coach was Ali Lawatiti.
Yeah.
Again, I wish I had some more time to think about it, but Ali Lawatiti, he was fast as Lee Oden on 40 metres. He was 112 kilos, about 6'2", unbelievable skills. We used to do evasion games, and I'd make Ali go and have a drink or go and do something else, and everybody else in the squad would compete in the evasion to see who would play him in the final, because he was already that much better than everyone else that you knew had to be. He had to be in the final because he was that much better. It was there wasn't anything he could do, and his ability to stand and tackle an offload or pass the ball to someone in space. I'm pretty sure that had he played, I think when I left, he played maybe one more year with the Warriors, and then they sacked him, and they ran him out of town, and he went to Leeds and ended up being a champion player over there. They won numerous competitions with him, and had Joe Wagner and all those guys that left and went elsewhere, had they all stayed, I'm pretty sure they would have won a comp quite comfortably, if not a couple of times.
Yeah. I want to get your opinion on Reece Walsh as a player, if you had one on him.
Yeah, look, he had the best season of all time last year. He was wonderful. You know, in the grand final, his performance was outstanding. Yeah, outstanding. He's an outstanding player. It's hard to replicate that season from last year. He'll have his trials this year, obviously, but I'm sure Madge will get the best out of him. He's some of his decisions under pressure last year, and especially in the grand final, were legendary and will remain so. Without him, they don't win the comp.
Definitely, yeah. I think some of his last-minute changes on the field just made the game, especially the Raiders and Broncos, the Golden Point one. That was also really good. Will you be watching the Broncos versus Hull KR that's coming up on Thursday?
I'm sorry, who are they playing?
Hull KR, the London team.
Oh,
World Club Challenge, yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't even realise that was on. There you go. Yeah, I will definitely be watching it for sure. Hull KR. Yeah, that'll be very interesting. Actually, is it being played over in Pommyland?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. James Graham reckons it's going to be like 3 degrees, just absolutely miserable in Hull, because I think they're playing at the FC Stadium, not Craven Cottage.
Okay.
And yeah, if the Broncos weren't used to that sort of dastardly weather, they're definitely going to get a shock. Come Thursday.
Yeah, well, I think I've actually played on that ground. We in 1980, I think we played there, and because of the crowd, because of the size of the crowd, we played at the local football stadium, which is no doubt that place, and the surface is unbelievable. If I'm correct in thinking that's where we played, because it's so cold, they have underground heating, so it's because if it was frozen, it'd be like playing on concrete. So. Yeah, it'll actually hang on. Well, it's coming out of the cold season over there. Yeah, so I'm guessing they might have a bit much class, but it depends who's refereeing. Because the referee under today's rules has so much influence on the outcome. It is undeniable. There's no there's no scrum time. He just goes to your ball. So in the old days, if you chuck the ball out, whatever, you gave them the feed and the loose, but you still had some say in the outcome. Nowadays, he just goes, "No, where do you want to play it? In the middle of the park, right? Well, let's start over there." So, for the people that want to change the rules, can we change them back so that it's fair for everybody and not just one side gets 66% of the ball? Because it's unheard of, and I mean unheard of, that if you win all the possessions, you lose. So at the start of the year, Penrith weren't going that good. If you look at their possession rates earlier in the year when they were getting beat, guess what? They didn't have any ball. And every side that doesn't have any ball gets beat. So it is that easy to influence the outcome of a game just by having all the ball. Doesn't mean you're better players. It just means that you've got all the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's me whinging again, but anyway.
Well, I will have to start wrapping it up just because we're coming short of time.
Sure.
But I do want to thank you so much for joining us today and giving us your full insight, your story, and everything. And if the boys had anything to say before we say goodbye.
Yeah, so if people listening, if you haven't seen Sharko, it's on 9 now. Highly recommend it. You go see that documentary. Mark Graham, just not a North Sydney legend, but a New Zealand sports legend and just an overall top, awesome guy. What a pleasure and an honour to have you on, mate. And Toddy and I, long life North Sydney Bears fans, Perth Bears fans now. And, mate, you are one of the kings, mate, in the red and black. So, yeah.
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Yes. See ya.